My name is Damian Tambini, and I'm really delighted to be here in Vienna at the CEU, working in the Department of Public Policy. I'm an academic who has moved from public policy into academia and back again, and that's really the way I work. I'm interested in the theories that are used by policymakers to make sense of some of the really fundamental questions that we face, and in particular, the relationship between media and democracy. Many of the problems of democracy today are traced back to problems with media freedom, and I'm interested in the long-term development of concepts of media freedom and how they impact policy making today as we try to grapple with problems such as the regulation of tech platforms. So one of the things I've noticed in my work as a policymaker and with policymakers is that there's a lot of confusion about the fundamental concept of press freedom and media freedom and how to accommodate the media in the new settlement on tech regulation that is being worked through by bodies like the European Union, like UNESCO, and like the UN, that are developing new principles for media in the environment of the tech platforms. Just as an example, the European Digital Services Act sets out a number of ways in which the platforms should take responsibility for things like disinformation, hate speech, etc. And one of the knock-on effects of these new rules is that the media may be prioritized or they may be demoted, and that creates problems that are already compounds existing problems for the business model of things like news and media. And other pieces of legislation like the European Media Freedom Act therefore create new rights for the media. So rights not to be taken down by the platforms, protections from filtering and so forth, and rights to be made more prominent on tech platforms. So all of these new developments create new problems which have a long history in terms of whether we're creating new institutions for propaganda and in terms of the fundamental relationship between governments, international institutions like the EU and the media. Can we develop a new framework for speech regulation that citizens will trust and that stands a chance of creating the incentives for truth that old media governance institutions actually created? So it's quite a complex area, and I'm interested in the long-term development of these ideas. So it's very interesting, in fact, to compare international human rights approaches, which have a strong tendency to support a watchdog role for the media, with, for example, the US First Amendment, which is the default position of a lot of the tech platforms and tends to be a much more libertarian, hands-off approach, which does not support special rights for the media. And these fundamental background philosophies are increasingly coming into conflict as we develop new frameworks for thinking about tech regulation.